We all know about Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. If you have never heard of it, you can consider Google your friend. Today we're going to talk about the other end of the bell curve, how to fight the radical left, and the new book by the brothers Gordon, Tim and David Gordon. It's called Rules for Retrogrades, plural, since there's more than one of us out there. And before I talk about the topic and introduce the guests, I want to mention that in these days of social isolation and the absurd worldwide COVID-19 lockdown, there is at least a partial solution. That is, consider visiting coffinnation.com. It's the largest culture restoring community in the world. We're now in 25 countries. We have a closed forum. We do live weekly webinars called Ask Away Thursday, and we generally have more fun than canon law permits. So, coffinnation.com. This episode of The Patrick Coffin Show brought to you by aforesaid website. Okay, rules for retrogrades. 40 tactics to defeat the radical left. Our guests are the authors, David and Tim Gordon, the brothers Gordon. They host a podcast and YouTube channel called Rules for Retrogrades. I was happy to endorse this book. Tim's been on before talking about his book, Catholic Republic, and Dave, his partner in crime now, is the co-author of this book. I'll just flash it for the camera. David and Tim, welcome to the Patrick Coffin Show together.
Thank you, Patrick. Nice
Good to see you, Pat.
Okay, why did you see the need for these rules, and for folks who are uninitiated, what is a retrograde? Maybe start with you, Tim.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing that occurred to me before any of this, before getting started, is how clueless the average 2020, or I guess 2019 when we started drafting this thing, Christian is in terms of what he has to do day to day, what he has to do big picture, what he has to do in terms of the social and cultural scene to fight back. And there's so many miscues, so much misinformation out there about this that I start thinking it's disinformation, that the Christian man has to be a Ned Flanders to be a good Christian. That I just told Tan Books, the good people there, that I'd like to write a book with my brother about the 40 main miscues that are being played on by the radical left, and they are fed to Christians, particularly Christian men, but all Christians, especially Catholics, regarding what it ought to look like, feel like, sound like, smell like to be a Christian. And they're all basically hand designed, I would say, by the radicals. And unless we reverse the radical kind of playbook for Christians, I don't know how the other side is in control of our behavior. I guess it's because from the cradle to the grave, they run entertainment, news, and the academy. That's probably it. We all think we have to be a bunch of dorks, and there's some subtle stuff and some less subtle stuff in this book. And I don't know, Dave's really good at this stuff, or real good at the strategery. So I wanted to bring this to him, and each of us handled 20 rules. And I don't know, Dave, can you say what a retrograde is?
Dave, just to as we throw to you, Dave, you have attorney training. You're a recovering legal beagle, so you bring a broad skill set to the question of what is the culture war, what's it being fought over, what's the booty in the culture war, and how is law the great teacher? Do you think, David, that law is the cause of culture in some way, or is it vice versa, or is that even resolvable?
Oh boy, yeah, good question, Patrick. No, I'd say there's a symbiotic relationship between law and culture, and it's kind of like, maybe an analogy would be the relationship between liturgy and doctrine. You know, lex orandi, lex credendi, lex credendi, lex orandi. The law feeds the culture, and yet the culture forms the law. So there's a bit of a symbiosis taking place there. So certainly, and just going briefly to Tim's question to define a retrograde, I would say a retrograde is an Orthodox Christian, an Orthodox conservative, who is willing to go to the mat for his ideas or beliefs, who's not going to sell out, who's not going to imbibe the saccharine hemlock of boomerisms that have kind of given us this false wisdom that has bound our hands and made the good guys not be able to fight back. These rules of engagement that are in force and that cripple our ability to win the culture wars.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I think Michael Voris deserves credit for a phrase that he coined 5 or 10 years ago, and that's the Church of Nice. That seems to get at your presupposition here, is that forget that nice guys finish last on all that, the maxims that'll fit on a bumper sticker. Jesus was a real man, and his father, Joseph, was a real man. They were men of the climate. They were men of cold and hot weather, of measuring things, of lifting things, of doing things as entrepreneurs. And it seems to me that a Christian man today is supposed to be either, as you say, Tim, Ned Flanders, or kind of, I don't know, Fred Rogers or Barney, kind of inoffensive and nice. And nice leads to a lot of evil being permitted.
Certainly. I think that's the point, is you're defanging the only real opponent. You're pulling the goalie on the only real defender between the radicals who have, taken everything over. Now we don't even identify them as radicals. They're just the mainstream left, global left.
Hey, this is Patrick Coffin. If you like what you see and hear and you want to see and hear more, consider joining Coffin Nation as a full member. Just click right here and find out more about what that means. Nipsey, my fedora. That's Coffin Nation, the world's largest online community of culture builders. Click right here. See you on the inside.